this is Kathy Atkinson. I should probably get the microphone for this so that you guys can hear me. Okay, so this is Kathy Atkinson with Mind, Body, and Soul. We're here in the garden for our garden open house, and I've just had so much fun with you guys. I love walking around and just being in nature, and especially with my herbs, and just talking about herbs and fun ways to use them, and helping you guys get excited about new ways to use the plants in your yard. So right now what we're going to do is a demonstration. The three most common ways, other than just eating them, that herbs are used is in a tea, an infusion, and a tincture. For me personally, teas are more of casual, relaxing entertainment. They're the fun thing. When I want to get serious about my herbs, I use an infusion, and the tinctures are more of a herbal medicine. So when I feel like I'm coming down with something, or when I have a specific label or project that I'm working on, I'll pull out my my tinctures. Okay. Now in plants there are different constituents. Obviously there's vitamins and minerals, right? But there's also things like flavonoids, alkaloids, saponins, glycosides, resins, different things. And those components do different things in the body. Now, in the pharmaceutical industry, when there's a plant that they know works to help something, or like aspirin, right? They know that the bark works just fine to help with headaches and with pain. Because you can't patent a plant, what they have to do is go in there and find out exactly what compound creates the desired effect. And when they figure out that compound, then once they've isolated it, now they have to learn how to figure out how to create it in the lab. Because again, you can't patent something that's found in nature, okay? So then they figure out how to create that in the lab. That's the synthetic version. And then they can patent it and they can sell it and make money, okay? So that's why we have aspirin. But what they don't have, they've isolated that compound that helps with pain, but they don't have the other things that go along with it in the herb. Okay, so things that might support it or protect the body, balance things, balance the effects. Okay, so that's why I personally like to use the herbs as much as I can, because then I'm getting the whole thing. Very few things in nature or in life work in isolation. They always have things that support it, okay? And with herbs, you get that. So when you're doing herbal preparations, okay, the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is the tea. Now the tea, you use water, and let me back up just a minute. The different constituents that I talked about, the vitamins and minerals, the alkaloids, the resins, all of those things are extracted using different mediums, okay? Water will pull most of them, but water is primarily really good for pulling nutrients out, vitamins and minerals, okay? Alcohol will pull everything out, okay? And so those are the two things that you use most. And we'll get to alcohol when I talk about the tincture, okay? Because alcohol is really good at pulling the medicinal properties out. And because alcohol is part alcohol and part water, and you never use just straight alcohol. Even if you have something that's like, what's it called, like white lightning, that is straight alcohol, you never do use just straight alcohol. You always do part of it with water. So let's start first with the tea. I'm going to put this down for just a minute. Okay, so with the tea, what I'm going to do is take some of this lemon balm. So this is some lemon balm that I dried, since this is all about Melissa, right? I'm going to take some of the lemon balm that I dried, and I'm going to put it in this tea ball, is what this is called, okay? And I'm going to use my fingers because this is my tea and it's my herbs, okay? So no one cares if I've used my fingers. And I mean, you can measure about a tablespoon. I'm just going to fill it up in there. I'm not going to measure too much. I'm going to put it in the cup, and then I'm going to cover it with water. water. And then I'm going to cover it so that none of those volatile compounds are released in the steam, okay? And I'm going to let it sit there for 15 to 20 minutes before I drink it. Now, for those of you who have ever gotten tea bags that have little bitty teeny tiny flecks of herbs in there, and who else knows what, right? And it says to steep for 5 minutes, you're really not getting much more than flavored water, okay? The longer steeping time is going to pull more of the nutrients out. It's going to pull a little bit of the medicinal things out, like some of the calming ones or energizing ones, but it's not going to pull much of anything else out. Okay, so I let that steep for about 15 minutes while I'm visiting with whomever, or while I'm, doing whatever, and then I'll sit down and I'll enjoy a relaxing cup of tea or an energizing cup of tea just for entertainment purposes. Okay, that's how you do a tea. But let's say, remember that recipe that I gave you for that multivitamin in a jar? I'm getting serious. I'm actually wanting to use my herbs for a purpose other than just entertainment, right? I want to have my vitamin. I want to have all the vitamins and nutrients out of that herb that I can get. So what I do, I use a French press. You don't have to use a French press. You can use just a quart jar if you want, okay? I happen to have a French press, so I use a French press. And what you'll do, it's about 1 tablespoon for every cup of water is what you're going to want to use. Okay, and that's the same for the tea as well as for the infusion. Okay, so a tablespoon of herbs, dried herbs, for every cup of water. Now, drying the herb releases and breaks the cell wall so that more of the things that you're wanting, more of the nutrients and the other compounds can be released into the water when it's dried. Okay, so to do an infusion, I'm going to put some herbs in here and I'm going to cover this with water. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to put the lid on it. And I'm not going to push this down because I want the herbs to be able to kind of move around in there and be able to have as much of the herb in contact with the water as possible so that it can pull out those vitamins and nutrients, right, minerals. And I'm going to let that sit for at least 4 hours. Now, I didn't measure, but I kind of eyeballed 1 tablespoon for every cup of water, right? And I'm going to let it sit for at least 4 hours. What I typically will do is make my infusion before I go to bed, and then I let it steep overnight. Okay? And then the next day I get up and I push this down. Now, if I wasn't using this and I was using this, I would just strain it. Okay? Strain it into something else. And then I drink it throughout the day. Okay? And that's how I get my infusion. Pull out all those vitamins and minerals that are in the plant that are now available for me to use, or for my body to use. Okay, so let's say now that I want herbal medicine. So some of the things that we talked about that lemon balm were good for was the nervous system. It's calming to the nervous system, so it was good for stress, it was good for anxiety. It was also energizing to the nervous system, so it was good for things like chronic fatigue. Right? It was also beneficial to the immune system. So it was good for things like cold sores. It was good for a fever. It was good for, what else? Cold sores, herpes, they mentioned. What else was in there? Anyway, the immune system, okay? And those were because of the medicinal properties. Now, water does pull some of the medicinal properties, but alcohol is really, really good for pulling out medicinal properties from herbs. Now, one of the things I want to point out is, because especially in our culture, sometimes people are a little bit concerned about using alcohol to make herbal preparations. A couple things I want to talk to you about that. Once this is done, would you consider this to be water? No, it's an infusion. It's filled with lots of other things, right? Sorry, I want the leaves to be able to mix in there for the next few hours. Okay, this is no longer water. It's now an herbal infusion, and it has a useful benefit to my body. When I'm making my herbs, I'm using an 80 proof vodka. I don't want to give a name away. I just go find the cheapest 80 proof vodka that I can find. 80 proof vodka is 40% alcohol, right? And 60%, I think it's distilled water. Okay, so first of all, we're only dealing with 40% alcohol. After my herbs have steeped in that alcohol has extracted all those alkaloids, all those medicinal properties, those things that pharmaceutical companies will isolate to find. Okay, and so now what I've got is not alcohol, it's herbal medicine. And then when I use it, I take this glass that has about a cup of water, and I'll put maybe 30 drops in there. So we're talking about, there's less alcohol in this than you're going to get in Benadryl. Okay, so for those of you who are concerned about that, using herbal medicine, it's filled with a lot of medicine. Okay. So here's how I do that. I'm going to do it in a jar. Now, when I do it, I usually make a big batch, and it lasts me for a long time. So one of the benefits also of using alcohol is that it will last pretty much forever. It's just not going to go bad. You can, if you have kids and you're concerned about using alcohol, you can use glycerin. Glycerin doesn't pull as many of the medicinal compounds out, and it only has a shelf life of 1 year. But if you've got a child that you really don't want to give them Benadryl, and you don't want to give them this, then you can use a glycerin tincture rather than a regular tincture. Just know that it doesn't have this long of a shelf life. Okay, so to make the tincture, I'm going to fill this jar about halfway full with herbs, and then I'm going to fill it up to about the round part here with alcohol, and swirl it around to make sure that it's sloshy. Okay, so this is how you do that. Whoops. Okay, and again, I want to make sure that my herbs are all covered in the alcohol. And I might even want to add a little bit more alcohol to this because some of the herbs are above the alcohol line. But I'm going to make do because I'm not going to go buy any more. And what I'm going to do is every day for the next week, I'm going to shake this just to make sure, because the herbs, because they're dry, they're going to expand a little bit, right? If I need to add some more alcohol, I will. And then after the first week, and like I said, the first week I'm shaking it every day. After the first week, for the next 5 weeks, I'm just gonna, every time I walk by it, if I happen to look at it, I might shake it, but I don't really have to worry about it too much. Then after the full 6 weeks are up, then I can strain this, and I'm gonna, to remove the herb, right? Strain it through cheesecloth or something, and then I'm gonna store it in a jar or someplace out of the light, just so that it maintains its freshness better, I guess. And then I can use it whenever I want. And a lot of times, especially for lemon balm, again, just when there's a high stress situation, or when I need to boost the immune system, just put a few drops of that. One dropper full is about 30 drops, so a dropper full is not that big if you've got one of those, eye droppers. One dropper full is about 30 drops, so put about 30 drops into a glass of water and just drink it down, and there you go. Okay. Any questions about the herbal preparations and how you'd use them or how you'd make them?
Remind me why you put the plate over the cup.
So I put the plate over the cup for the tea so that those compounds that are the volatile compounds that might escape through the tea don't, and they stay in the tea. Though they might escape through the steam, they don't. They stay in the tea.
Is that called a tincture?
This one is called a tincture. Yes, this is a tincture. This is an infusion, and this is a tea. Okay.
How long do tinctures last once you're storing them?
Tinctures, because they're made with alcohol, pretty much last indefinitely. I mean, I've got some that I made, oh my gosh, 8-10 years ago, and I still use them.
So like the one you just made, once you strain it, it'll be slightly less than a quart once you get all the strained, right?
Yes.
And you'll just store it in quart jars, and you literally just take just dropperfuls at a time.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And dilute it in water.
Dilute it in water, yeah.
Can the water be warm or cold, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, warm or cold.
Okay.
I usually just do it in like tepid water, whatever the tap water. I don't drink tap water too much. I get water from the well, and so it's on the counter. I just pull it out, pour it out. Yeah. We're gonna hold on just those questions. I want to thank you guys that are joining us on Facebook. Thank you very much for watching. If you have questions, go ahead and post them in the comments, and I'll try and get back to your questions as well. But this is Kathy Atkinson, Mind, Body, and Soul, and you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.